morning. My name is Tony Schofield, and I'm the operations manager at Main Street Skowhegan. And we submitted a grant application, and I just wanted to make you aware of what our project is at 185 Water Street. We're in the process of grant funding, and then in the future, when we've exhausted all those options, we'll be looking for low-interest loan to develop 185 into a shared kitchen space. And the goal of that project is really workforce development and preparing people in the food service industry to launch their own entrepreneurial food businesses, or also be prepared to work for local establishments.
Sounds wonderful. Have you been in touch with Aaron Benson of the Central Maine Western Community Job Development?
Yes, yes.
Good.
I know Aaron, and we communicate at least once a month.
Oh, good, great, okay.
Yes. So if you have any questions between now and the grant review, I'm certainly here to answer them.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Workshop, matching grant application review.
So I wanted to just share a couple of things with the commissioners, and you've had a chance to look at the 13 application, just the summaries that came through. This sheet that I put on your desk or in your packet is a summary that the committee used as they reviewed the applications last week. And it talks about a couple of things about community benefit. Community benefit is actually in the state statute under the wind energy development. That's why it's specific to the windmills projects. So it doesn't automatically come with other TIFs. So this community benefit is a little bit different. It's not taxpayer dollars from the wind developers, it's a contribution that they make. And then in our agreement, which we entered into Blue Sky West at the time, it says that we'll use these funds to contribute to the general well-being of the county. So between state statute and the agreement, the committee looked at each of these to see, do these projects align with at least one of the following criteria: property tax reduction, economic development, natural resource conservation, tourism, energy cost savings, and again, the community development or general well-being of the county. So that, I just want to give you a little bit of background on what the criteria that the committee used. And I was very pleased with the committee. We had 7 members. Everybody participated. Everybody scored all the applications, and we had a chance to interact with everyone last Friday. So based on that, the sheet that you have in front of you that lists the applicant, the project, the amount requested, and the committee's recommendations. There's 13 of them altogether. And I'll leave it up to how the commissioners want to do it. Do you want me to run down these item by item, or do you have any questions about specific ones, or how would you like me to proceed?
I had a question on the Goodwill Hinckley one.
Yep.
Are those courts going to be available for outside entities besides the Goodwill?
Yes.
They are?
Yep, they're for the public.
Okay.
Yep,
That makes a difference.
that's right.
Yeah, they are for the
Yeah.
public, and
Yeah.
I'm also on the Goodwill Hinckley Board of Directors, so I have to recuse myself from that particular item.
Who's going to break the tie?
I don't know. I'll have to wait until next meeting.
So are those courts going to be available for public use?
Yep, yep. So,
I guess I have a question
go ahead.
with a couple of these and what they're wanting it for, and then the award. The VFW post on the purchase of an electric sign, has that been changed to the roofing? Is this correct, is what we've got written here?
Right.
Okay, so my question is, I know that probably has to be done, but is that really something that is what we want? Is this type of thing something we want these funds to be allocated for? And is it something that is enhancing, as we want it to do the county and the community in terms of
Yeah.
what we've talked about?
So why don't I do this? Why don't I run through them all quickly and just give you a little summary. So Kennebec Behavioral Health, they applied for funding to help with some ADA accessible renovations at the building that they are currently renting, which is this white building directly across the street here. The landlord is willing to put some money in, but they will need to be open to serve the public. They will need a ADA ramp and an ADA bathroom. And so that was their request. Main Street, Skowhegan, you've heard about the kitchen at 185. So the recommendations from the committee was to award both Kennebec Behavioral Health and the Main Street application. Old Canada Road, the request was rather small, only $2,000, and they want to utilize the small buildings that were originally purchased by the Skowhegan Area Chamber of Commerce. And they were small buildings, they were bought from Charlie's and Sons, and they placed one in Madison, they placed one in Bingham up by the Power Sports Place. And with changeover at the Chamber, they no longer wanted to utilize those buildings. And so Old Canada Road approached the Chamber about buying the one in Bingham and moving it down to Solon to promote the Old Canada Road. So it would be used for the original intent. Now, during our conversation with the members of the committee, Christian brought up the fact that community benefit money was already spent, given to the Chamber back in '21 to buy those buildings. So the group as a whole didn't feel comfortable by basically spending community benefit money twice for the same building, even though it was a much lower cost the second time around. So the applicants explained that they'll also need funds for building an ADA ramp on that building and getting it hooked up to electricity. So the committee felt that they would rather allocate those funds, that $2,000, to that rather than to the purchase of the building. So that's why the committee recommends awarding it, but changed how the money would be used slightly. Goodwill Hinckley, we talked about those pickleball courts that will be open to the public. The Heartland Historical Society, they're doing something similar with a prefab building where they're building a home for their Historical Society documents. The Border Riders, they're up in Dennistown. They're purchasing a new snowmobile trail drag. The East Madison Historical Society is installing a heat pump in their display building to keep the temperature regulated. That's a smaller request of only $3,780. The Norwich Walk Sportsman Association, they want to put some new signs up on the trail that is now the Kennebec Valley Trail that goes across the bridge in Norwich Walk, and that's the old rail to trail project. The VFW in Madison, their request was to purchase an electronic sign, and so when the committee looked at this, there was a couple of questions as to, is this the best use of the money? The location of the VFW in Madison is 2 roads off of the main street, and so it doesn't get a whole lot of traffic for an electronic sign. And some of the quotes that they had were from pretty much top of the line $20,000, $25,000 signs. One of our committee members recommended they could probably find a more basic sign for less money. And in their application, one of the things they were asking money for the sign, one of the reasons was because they're having to spend their other monies on their roof repair to their building. And that building is where they hold their meetings. It's usable by the public. They can rent it out, that space there. So the committee felt it would be a better use of the funds if we helped them with their roof repair and then left them to decide what they wanted to do with an electronic sign. The Solon Community Food Cupboard, they're looking to purchase a building in Solon. If you've been up 201 heading to Solon, the Superette, the old Superette, not the corner store, but a little up further, closer to the cemetery. The old Superette has been closed for several years, and they're working with the owner to do an arrangement where they can lease it and then buy it, and then so they're looking for some funds to go toward that. The American Legion Post in Madison, they're looking to create some blueprints for a new building. The committee wanted more information from them, a specific quote. They did not put a quote in their application specific to the blueprint, so they said, you know, they like the idea, but they'd like to see some specifics before it's officially paid out. And then the Dead River Snowmobile Riders, these are up in the West Forks, and they are doing some repairs to current equipment. There was conversation from both of from the committee on the two snowmobile clubs, Border Riders and Dead River, as to whether or not we should consider taking that money out of the UT TIF because they serve the UT area. But my recommendation is you can keep it all within the same fund if you like. So that's the 13 applicants. And to your question, Commissioner Seekins, about a VFW post, they would probably say with their mission to serve veterans and serve the community, that they are generally working for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the county, and they do need a roof repair job done.
The only thing I would like to see is an estimate before we make a decision on that one, because 15,000 seems a little strong for blueprints, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
On the blueprint, don't they go by percentage of the cost of the
I
building?
think so.
Yeah, and just to give you a little background on that information, if you know where the Legion building is behind Rennie's in Madison, that's a municipally owned parking lot. What the Legion is trying to coordinate with the town is that they would swap properties, that the Legion would get the far corner of the parking lot that's not used and build a new one-level ADA accessible building there, and then give the town the old building. One of the rubs is who's going to pay to tear it down, and will that eventually lead to more parking in that, and an easier in and out of that parking lot. So I think it's a good project, but I think to your point, it may not be far enough along to know exactly what the money can be used for.
So the thing that I'm really concerned about when I see this list and how we project we want these funds to be used in terms of enhancing the county, the communities in the county, is that we don't take this track where we're just giving it out for,
Well, let's all remember that these monies are all matching funds. If they don't come up with a matching fund, they don't
right,
get the
they don't
money.
get the money, right.
So-
And I think that's stated here, based on final estimate.
See,
Can't touch it until.
Yeah.
what I would recommend is, if the commissioners are interested, is what you can do today is you can just review these, and if you wanted to make any resolutions, you could do a resolution to award these, any and all of them. You could award them, but before any money is cut from the county, the resolution has to come back to you, and that way, that gives each of the projects time to give us proof that they have spent their match money, or they have signed contracts, or they have documentation. So the action you take today doesn't release the funds.
Right.
You don't release the funds until another resolution comes
What
back.
you're saying is we release that resolution, they start the projects with what they have.
Right, that's right.
And then, once we see that investment from them, then
Right.
we,
Because in my experience in the past, we've seen projects get awarded, and then for whatever reason, people shift, or they decide not to do it, and so the money's never been, check's never been cut, and usually they have a year to do it. I think in their applications, you have a year to get this project going.
In these grants, they don't get the money until the project's complete.
Or at least the commitment of the funds that they've spent. Right, right. Now, in the previous grant project that we did in Madison, because those were mostly businesses, they usually had the capital where they could spend all the money and then ask for a reimbursement.
Right.
So if you want to do the same thing with these, then we'd have to explain that to all the
I thought that's how we had
applicants.
set up the rules and regulations for the grants, was that they had to finish the project and then come and get the money.
And if that's the way you want to approve it, that's fine. I don't have the language right in front of me for the grant applications.
in a sense, I think that's good, but, I think we need to at least see, I'll take the example from the the St. Albans Fire Department, because it's what I'm most familiar with, is they allotted $19,000 from the ARPA funds. And some other funding that the town will allocate. They'll have plenty of money to get their project started. But that project is different in that everything that they need for that funding to start that rescue that they're asking for all needs to be ready and on the truck before they can even apply for the certifications to do what they want to do. And that's about a 6-month process thereafter. So with some of these, I think there's going to be a variance in completion. And some may not even be able to, start that up.
Well,
But
like the American Legion, they need
right,
the engineer there to do what he needs to do before they can finish it.
right.
You know, so if they match the money they're asking for.
Patrick?
Have we set a minimum scoring requirement? Instead of just saying you submit an application and you can get the money? Shouldn't there be like, you need to score, because you're using the scoring to see if it's a viable project.
Right.
You should, like, anything over a score of 75 is a viable project, anything under 75 is not a viable, I'm just throwing something
Right.
out there. But
Yep.
should there be a minimum scoring requirement before?
So we discussed this at the committee, and we actually went through every application one by one and took a vote from all 7 members of the committee. And they felt that they should recommend all of the applications. The scoring, I got some feedback that they wanted to tighten up the criteria for scoring in the future. And it was very clear from these applications that if you were an experienced grant writer, you scored the highest. And some of the smaller nonprofits who'd never done this before, they tended to score the lowest. And so, not to pick on anybody, but folks like Kennebec Behavioral Health and Main Street, they know how to write grants. And so they scored the highest because they met the criteria. So the committee didn't feel like anybody should be penalized for what they consider to be a low score. And the scores are a collaboration of all 7 of the people that rank them. And it's just personalities. I see this all the time. Some people are very generous and everybody gets a 90 or 100. Some people are hard and everybody got a 30 or a 40. So.
I understand that.
That would be me.
To be honest, then why do you get a scoring system?
Because, good question, because we wanted to report back to everybody that applied, especially some of those that scored poorly, to give them encouragement and say, if you want to apply for a grant again, whether it's with the county or anybody else, we recommend that you do this, this, and this, and this is why you scored poorly. So I think from what the committee discussed, you'll see changes to the scoring process, and maybe you will get to a point where there's a minimum. They didn't feel it was fair right out of the gate to do that.
I like the idea because I think it safeguards the money not being, and I know the final decision's here, but safeguards the money not being used for things that aren't necessarily a profit or benefit or,
Right.
to the county, to the people, and to the community. So I like the idea of having a scoring system that could potentially eliminate individuals from the application process.
Well, eventually you're gonna have limited resources. to
Right.
use to-
Right.
Yeah.
So is there any one of these that you want to remove?
I've got a few in my mind that are still questionable. Is this something that we have on as a resolution today, or this is just
We
discussion
have
stage?
a resolution that's coming up, yeah. But right now, we're discussing, we're in a workshop.
With the changes that have been made to the ones that I had questions about, there's only one or two here that I think that I probably wouldn't approve, and I think probably those for me are the UT. The ones that we considered for UT, I think those should be UT, because of the nature of what they're for. This is what we consistently use UT money for, and, TIF money for, so that's where I would go with that one. The American Legion, I do think that we need a firm estimate before that's awarded or we approve that. I do almost want a little bit more information on the Heartland Historical Society one as well, but those are the only ones that I'm, because they all have a certain benefit, but do we want to set precedents of just heading down that trail of just handing out money without,
Right.
I know it's what it's there for, but.
And I realize that the commissioners didn't get to see all of the full applications. And if that's something you want to change in the future, I'd be glad to do that. For the Heartland Historical Society, what they're doing is they're purchasing a completely finished prefab building.
Yeah.
And they're spending about $55,000 to do that. And they want it wired with, a heating system so that their documents can be kept fairly safe, so.
So all these will come before us at the next meeting. There's no resolution tonight.
Right, I didn't put a resolution on the agenda for this in particular. I wanted you to discuss it if you wanted more
Right.
information. If you felt comfortable doing an approval right now, then you could add a resolution. That's up to you, that's your prerogative. But if you wanted to wait 2 weeks and come back with more information, but if you're comfortable with them now, I guess it's really up to you, so.
Or if there's a number that we are comfortable with, we could choose those and then go back to the other, revisit the other ones.
Just wondering if we should wait and, so that the other two commissioners can review these as well.
Well, really, you'd just be waiting for the input from Commissioner Stetkus, because Commissioner Alsop's on the committee, and so
He can't.
he's already reviewed them all, and
Oh, he's already
and
reviewed them all.
he's recommending
And
all of them,
that's-
yeah.
okay.
So was there any that you want to pick out and go forward with?
I have none that I want to take out because they have things that cover, protect us, like based on the final estimate, they're switching the roof to the,
Yeah, I mean to take out, to vote on today, to make a resolution for today, immediately? Or did you want to just wait till 2 weeks?
I want to get some more thought and maybe some more information on some of these, or all of them if you guys want to. I just think that, great information tonight, but kind of if we could get a little bit more if there's more information on the applications that we should see, something like that, before we make any decision. Because there are still some there that, for me, are questionable.
Well, why don't we leave it for resolution for
Yep.
our next meeting? And that will give all the commissioners time to come in and look at the applications.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. Any further discussion on this portion of the workshop, matching grant application review? None. Energy conservation strategy, number 2 on our workshop.
So you've heard me talk in the past about a federal grant that's available for upwards of about $72,000, $73,000, and we've put together an application that we have not completely submitted yet to retrofit all of our fluorescent lights with LEDs, both in this building and other county buildings. And as we've been going through the application process, one of the things that's required is that you share with the federal government your energy efficiency and conservation strategy, which I've worked up a draft here that I hope you've had a chance to basically take a look at. It's 3 pages long. It basically starts with an introduction of who we are, and the components of this strategy will be a summary of our energy use, some energy-related goals, and then recommendations. And I will say that I borrowed heavily from other entities that have already done a strategy similar to this and just incorporated some of our data and our statistics. You can see our summary of our energy use is pretty significant in what we pay for electricity costs, heating oil, and even gasoline for our vehicles. So one of the things that they require is that your energy goal has to match up with their energy goals at the federal level. And so one of them was to reduce energy use by 50% by 2050 or sooner. So that's the one that we felt gravitated toward with some of the projects that we want to do. And these projects are not limited to the LEDs, but they also could be some of the things we talked about with solar and other projects. But I wanted to run this strategy by the commissioners first before I submitted it, saying this is something that the county has adopted, which we haven't to this point. So just wonder your thoughts or comments about that.
I think the target of 2050 has been a moving target, because I remember when I was in Skowhegan, we did the whole building over and everything, and now that, what we did is obsolete again.
Yeah,
And that's the issue that we're gonna have.
yeah. Well, in 2050, you can come back and prove us all wrong.
I won't be.
I don't know.
I'll be 100 years old.
I don't know, you come from pretty healthy stock, so.
Still will you in.
Thanks.
What is your recommendation on this in terms of submitting this? I mean, what do you,
Well, it's been an interesting development. This project has been out there since last fall.
Actually
And
before.
they've moved the deadline for applications twice. They had a deadline of last fall, then they moved that to January of '24, now they moved it to April of '24. And what Patrick and I are finding is very few people are applying for these funds, because on the surface, the federal government is saying, you've already been allotted $70-some thousand, all you have to do is apply for it. So I was at a meeting today with the other county administrators, and there's 10 of us there together. And I asked the group, I said, how many have applied for this? And only Aroostook has applied for anything, some HVAC work. And they've been in contact with the federal government and submitted an application 5 times, and each time it's been denied or changed for some reasons. So most of the other county administrators said it's not worth your time. So I'm kind of, walking through this, and with every grant application, you have to figure out, what's your return on investment? How much time are we spending here to get something back? I still think it's worthwhile. Patrick and I sat in on a listening session with some very nice people from Washington DC who tried to explain things to us, and, I think we could probably do it, but it's not nearly as easy as it is advertised. So, but as far as this strategy, whenever I try to make a document like this, you gotta have, it's got to pass the straight face test. I mean, it can't be something that is gonna be unattainable or unreachable. And most of the recommendations that are in here are pretty common sense stuff. Just kind of monitoring your electricity use and trying to find ways to save. And if solar is beneficial, if LEDs are beneficial, then those are the small bites of the apple that you take, so.
thank you.
Well, I see no reason why we shouldn't submit the application. If they tell us no, we'll have learned from develop the learning curve.
Yep.
So this is a draft.
That's a draft, and again, there's not a resolution on the table today, but if you
Come
want to.
back with the full application.
Yep.
And we can review it.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, I think Patrick and I are working on a budget for the application, and then any other questions. And I think the 2 main parts are your strategy and the budget. That's what you're trying to accomplish. So we can certainly bring those back to a future meeting.
You can bring it back, you're comfortable bringing it back to our next meeting?
Yep.
And we'll have that as a
You haven't heard back from Bill? Okay.
we can have that as a resolution.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yep.
If we're not ready for the next meeting, we'll just move it ahead, so.
Or if we're ready for a partial okay.
Okay,
If it's not a full, so that we can chip away at it.
good.
Good.
Okay, so now we are down to, if there's no other conversation regarding energy conservation strategies, we'll move along to the new agenda items, commissioners only.
I'm all set.
I don't have any.
Yes. Well, we want to make a motion to add to the agenda.
Oh, yeah, where am I? I'd like to add, Resolution 2343,
B.
add, letter B to Rockwood liquor license.
That was already on.
Is there a second?
So, go ahead, if you need a second.
Is there
I
a
can-
second?
Oh, second.
Yeah. So there's two UT liquor licenses that came in. One came in before the agenda was written, so that's the Maine Hudson Trails on number 243.
Right.
And then there was another one that came in just today from the Rockwood Bar and Grill. So I asked the chair if he would entertain both of them at the same time, so he said that we would.
So that's what we're doing with this
A and B.
change of agenda. Any further conversation, discussion? All in favor? Okay, so that will be 23-243B. Finance reporting.
In your packet, I gave you some financial reports. Head count for as of the first of this month, we were down 16 heads, and actually down one position lower than last month, so that's 131. That number now is 130, unfortunately, it was just before the meeting, and heard that we lost another person, so unfortunately, we took 2 steps back when it comes to that, and then, you know, the revenue expense summary, we're still trending favorable because of all the open positions, basically. I also put in your packet a proposed schedule for the budget, that time of year again. Of course, this can change depending on what comes up, but the plan is by the 1st of January, I'm gonna have the budget files completed so I can send them out to the department heads. Department heads will have basically the month of January to complete their budgets. And when it comes February, that's when they'll meet with Tim. So Tim can work with them and make any changes that he feels should be made. And then in March, that's your time frame. March will be the time frame that you meet with the commissioners for their review. And the plan is by end of April to have the budget committee also have completed their review, and by the 1st of May, have it go out to the public hearing. That's basically all I have, unless you have any questions related to the material that was supplied to you.
So I guess, for the commissioners' review of the budgets, are we going to establish a time, 9 or 10 o'clock, or?
Yeah, usually what we do is we do a full day, and
Yeah.
then if we need to, we can do another partial day afterwards. I have a feeling that we may need 2 full days, because we have new commissioners to the whole process, so we should explain it in a little more detail on what's going on, and then there may be more questions. So I would expect that we'll probably, those 2 commissioner meetings for March will probably be full-day commissioner meetings. And yeah, we usually start around 9:30.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. I just noticed it was blank and wanted to
Yep.
kind of put a time in our, dangle a time in front of us so we'd think
Yeah,
about
we
it.
usually go from 9:30 till, used to be about 3, gave you guys a break before the meeting, so maybe we go from 9 to 2.
Yeah.
And you have like an hour break before your meeting. And we usually work through lunch.
Right. And- Very good. Any other questions, comments? Is any other reporting for finance? Okay, very good.
Glass half full.
All right, administrative report.
I gave you my bullet points there in your packet.
Yep.
I'm pleased to say that we do have several interviews scheduled for tomorrow for the first round of interviews for the office manager and register of deeds. So that has been well responded to. So we'll be doing the initial rounds tomorrow. Just a couple other things to note. I've prepared, and I sent it out to you by email. It's not in your packets right now, but I basically prepared a list of expectations for a elected register of deeds. And that might be helpful if you're talking with people that might be interested in that very part-time elected position,
Right.
because it kind of lists the expectations and also lists all the state statutes that require those expectations. So it's very similar. If you didn't get that email, I'll resend it to you. A couple of months ago, when the county was recognized as the safest driving county in the state, and we're working hard to smash that record. It was mentioned in the commissioners' meeting that perhaps some of those funds that were received as an award could be used to recognize folks. And I just want to let the commissioners know that that is being planned and being done right now. So there's special recognitions as far as group meals and so forth being done at the jail and the sheriff's office, the comm center, and then we'll do one here during our holiday party here at the courthouse. So that's going forward. So part of the work that Dave and I did the last couple of weeks is we've been talking with our attorney, and we need to kind of bring you up to speed on the situation with Lexington Plantation. They were
Kingsbury.
thank you, I always get that wrong, Kingsbury Plantation, because there was a agreement between Kingsbury, Brighton, and the county to pay for the construction of a salt shed. And that project has been completed, and the county and Brighton have paid their portion, but Kingsbury decided with a new Board of Assessors. We went through the proper channels. We had our attorneys send them notice. They responded by hiring an attorney and trying to establish an arbitration. And so heading into the arbitration, Peter Marchese met with Dave and I just to kind of talk about some of the things that have been discovered. And basically, the county unfortunately does not have enough legal standing to make this happen. The agreement that was written between those three entities, the original one was written involving DOT, because at that time DOT was involved. Then another one was written back in 2014, I think.
16.
And that only mentions the plot of land. It does not mention any agreement about new buildings. And the other kicker was, that agreement was never registered with the state. So the legal technical part was the arbitrator, who we had already set up, had looked at it and said that agreement's not admissible because it was never registered with the state and it never mentions anything about a building. So our decision after talking with Peter Marchese is, let's put the brakes on this now because we're spending legal money that we're not going to get back. And so we let Peter go and have a conversation with their attorney. And what they came back with was Kingsbury's willing to deed over their portion of the land, so now the land just belongs to the county in Brighton, and they're willing to pay $7,500. Originally, we were looking for them to pay $35,000. That was their third of this new building. But that $7,500 essentially helps us to cover the legal costs that we have paid to get into, to stop, and pull out of this mess before we lose any more money or spend any more money. So that's where we are with that situation. And that's all I had to report.
Are they ever gonna want us to have that back again at some point?
No.
I think Dave summed it up yesterday when we were having the conversation. Because we were doing rock, paper, scissors as to who gets to report this to the commissioners, and I lost, so.
I'm willing to pitch in and add any questions that they come up with, but
Yeah,
the trouble we had basically with Kingsbury is at the start with the previous Board of Assessors, they were kind of on the fence. They weren't sure if they were gonna do it or go off and do things on their own. But at that time, there were no wind towers, so they didn't have the boatload of money they have now. So they joined in. And at that time, DOT was involved, there was all this reimbursement based on state roads that we plow. And it was very complicated, and the agreement we had was very complicated. And it had to do with who's paying what share of this and that. And we were still at that time hiring engineers and wetland surveyors and all that stuff. And then when the state backed out, they basically told us, well, just go buy the old location, it's grandfathered. So we bought from Farren Brothers. The salt shed even then was telephone poles, traffic signs, and you could go inside and still read because there was daylight through all the walls. We knew it was gonna have to be replaced, that was no surprise at all. But Kingsbury then got a load of money, and the way their roads are plowed, they weren't even using the salt shed. Their salt was being picked up by Steve Lawson, I think in Abbott, and as he plowed east, he was dumping, sand and salt on the roads. So they decided it didn't benefit them to have this salt shed. Even though they didn't leave the agreement until after the salt shed was built and they received an invoice for their share. That's when they decided they were gonna leave, and then they had a special town meeting not to pay for the invoice. So, we certainly felt we had justified reasons, but our lawyer looked at the agreement and he did not like what he saw at all. He was saying this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Everything in the agreement talked about maintenance on the existing building. It was never mentioned that we were going to go shares on a new one. Even though we voted in 2022 to do that, Kingsbury never said they weren't going to pay their share. But anyway, the new board, their Board of Assessors came together, they voted against it. And back in 2014, the initial agreement was looked at by everybody here at the county. We had Warren Shea look it over and make sure it was acceptable, and DOT looked it over to make sure it was acceptable. Somehow, we missed the fact that it had to be registered with the Department of Elections and Corporations, I believe is the office at state level. So their lawyer came up with that. He gave it to the arbitrator, and then I called to follow up, and neither had been recorded. So we really didn't have a legal leg to stand on. Morals, yes. I think morally we were absolutely right, but I felt not, I don't think it was appropriate to talk about morals to lawyers. So what we could do legally was stop where we were, get whatever we could get, and live the rest of our lives. And Kingsbury is on my do not talk to ever again list. They're not in Somerset County, they're in Piscataquis. So they're not somebody I'm gonna need to speak with again anyway.
So, having heard all of this and it being dropped, I guess, in terms of pursuing anything, what is our responsibility and obligation going forward?
We are going to have a new agreement, interlocal agreement between the county and Brighton Plantation. So I don't know if Peter wants to do that or whether we're gonna need somebody else, but we'll rewrite or start from scratch, I think was Peter's suggestion,
Okay.
to do a new one between us and Brighton.
So Kingsbury will be out of the
right.
Kingsbury's out.
equation, okay.
Yep.
So that's all I had.
Is there anything that they can come back on based upon the fact that they're out of the negotiation?
Doesn't seem like that's gonna happen.
So the two lawyers are working on settlement documents that will close this. Yep.
It's not totally done yet, now it's just the two lawyers working things out.
Has the deed already been changed?
A quitclaim deed has been sent to Peter Marchese, so.
Okay. So, department heads. Dave, we'll start with you.
Okay, there are a couple of things. We have, later in this meeting, approval for the plowing of the Camp Owens Road on Mayfield Pond and Kingsbury Pond. And that actually was approved in May. We had a discussion about that in May when we were paying for the last year's plowing. But what we have an option now is our tip from the wind towers has been totally approved. They had that section that was on the camp roads around Kingsbury and Mayfield Ponds, kind of a temporary approval until they investigate it longer. We have received the full approval now. And up to this point, we've been paying out of community benefit just to be on the safe side of these agreements. So now with total approval, we can move the plowing for these roads, those expensive, out of community benefit and put them right into TIF. So that's an option. When you vote on this, you can specify if you want to leave it as is with community benefit, or switch it over and have it come out of TIF. The second thing I wanted to mention is I've been talking to the Rockwood Fire Department, and they would very much like to get studded snow tires for their rescue vehicle and for the engine one. And I had Todd Merkel, I think he's captain or lieutenant up there, I forget which. But he went out and he got some quotes. And I would like to see us buy those and then get them installed. We get a lot more ice than we used to. I know we have one of our ambulance, Upper Kennebec Valley ambulance, they're running full studded tires now. It's so much better than the old chains everyone had to fight with in the past. I got quotes for that. It's about a little over $7,000, counting tires and the labor included to install those. I didn't put that in the meeting for you to vote on. We can do it in the next one if you wanted to. So I have the quotes and everything if anybody wants to see that.
While you're looking down that road, have you thought of getting a set of rims to put the studded snows on so that you're not always taking snow, changing them over all the time?
I had not, and they had mentioned it.
Why don't we look into that as well?
Oh, I can look at that, yeah.
Thank you.
It'd be difficult because on the rescue, it's just a large pickup with a, you know, it's like an ambulance basically, it's an old ambulance. But the fire engine itself, I imagine changing tires on that. You still have to go to the tire place in Bangor. And what I didn't mention was this tire dealership, they do have government rates to save some money. So, but I can have them check for rims. I think they're special rims. They may be expensive, but there's something to certainly look at.
And you might be able to get them from, it's like Silver's Junkyard or a reclaimed auto yard.
Okay, we'll see what we can do and come up with a number for that.
I'd check on the liability of that, too.
Yeah.
Liability?
Well, if we get them from a junkyard, I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if we want
Yeah, I don't.
that on our fire rescue folks, yeah.
We're low budget, you know.
I know, but,
Yeah, we'll see what's available, and if we can maybe find some used, I mean, certainly a used room would probably be acceptable.
Yeah.
But we'll see what I can come up with the prices.
A lot of times, I know with our normal vehicles, sometimes dealerships swap out and they sell the swapped rims to the reclaimed auto shops. So they're new rims, they're just swapped out.
Yeah, yeah.
And it happens either way. Some people will swap out their new aluminum rims for steel rims and vice versa, so.
So what would these funds come out of?
I'd be looking probably for this. If we do it this winter, it would be probably out of TIP, if it's not budgeted. If we didn't want to do it out of TIF, then we would be looking into budgeting it for next year, which our final budget will be at the next meeting for the UT. So we've got a couple weeks before I would need to increase that line. No, it wouldn't be good this year. TIF has got funds to, I mean, right now we're looking at 7,000 plus. And if we had rims, I don't know, maybe 10,000 or more. You know, that we could just give them the okay and they could go get it done.
And I'd look at it for the, I would dismiss the rescue vehicle. I would look for rooms for that too.
Yes. Yeah, we're looking at the rescue and the engine.
Yeah.
I do have the quotes here, if I can pass them out. You can see what they're talking about, what the labor is.
And I know the problem with snow tires, studded snow tires, state law is that they have to be all the way around.
Yes, absolutely. You want to live in interesting life, just put them on the left side.
How do you know that?
I don't know that actually, but it did run bias ply, snow tires on the back, and radials on the front. I learned not to do that.
Oh, that's not a good thing, yeah.
No, it wasn't.
So I guess my other question is, and I'm always gonna ask this question with fire departments, because I'm familiar that they all do fundraising. Have they talked about any type of fundraising to go towards that?
They haven't about this. No, I know they have fundraising, they have an auxiliary up in Rockwood, and they do often raise funds for different pieces of equipment. This was kind of a discussion I had with one of the members, and it was like, he said it'd be really good, and I said, I know our ambulance stuff now, and it's really working well, so I said, you know, if I can get agreement from the commissioners, I'll be willing to spend some TIF money on it.
Chair.
I don't know if any local businesses, well, I imagine some must need truck tires. We'll see. But now, the quote I just gave you is from a Bangor company, MCT. Maine Commercial Tire.
All set? Anything? Pavel?
I have some updates about the county website. So according to vendors, it's nearly complete and they plan to go live with that website in the week of December 18th. So it should be completed this month.
We're gonna have a final review.
Yes, it's gonna be reviewed first, but the plan is to go live on the week of 18th. So, I placed the order for the firewalls, for that grant that we received for the firewalls at the courthouse, jail and communication center. Also, we received new criminal justice information services guidelines for IT. So my plan is to review that. It's almost like 400-page document with all this like IT recommendations. So my plan is to review this month and maybe the first 2 weeks of January. So I will have some time to probably put some new projects in the IT budget for 2024. So that's my plan to focus on that.
The question for you is, our resolution 23-242 asks for an upgrade to internet speeds.
Yes.
Does that come with a price tag?
So this is just for the courthouse to upgrade the internet speed, yes. Oh, yes, that's, yes. It's
So we'll probably want to know how much that is and where that money will come from,
Okay, so the amount.
if we can do it this year.
It will come out of the
IT budget, yes.
And you've got the money.
Yes.
I remember you and I talked about this, but
Put a payroll deduction.
I remember we talked about this, but I know the information you gave me was more about that backup system,
Yeah.
not the internet speeds of the courthouse. And I know it wasn't a tremendous amount of money,
Yeah.
but they'll need to know what that cost is gonna be.
Yeah, so that monthly increase, it's $193.50
A month,
a month.
per month, every month?
Yes,
And that's just for the courthouse?
that's just for the courthouse.
What would the speed be increased from to?
So currently we have like just 50 megabits. The increase will be to 500, which is time up and down, which is times 10 basically. It's needed for the Central Square project.
Yeah,
So it's completely, they changed the design, so it's really needed. That's gonna be the main connection for all the external agencies to access those Central Square servers. So that's the reason why we upgrade, why we need to upgrade that internet here at the courthouse.
okay, so we'll come back to that anyway, but I
Okay.
just wanted to
All right.
kind of nip that in the bud. Thank you. Mike? Major, Mike.
Good afternoon. So a lot of activity at the jail, so what else is new? A lot of personnel stuff going on, as you all can see on the agenda this afternoon. We are still diligently hiring. We're getting closer to full staffing. We're at 4 openings now. We had a resignation, which you're seeing on your agenda. I'm the eternal optimist. We're going to get to full staffing. And hopefully, again, sooner rather than later. Brett, our IT person, has been working diligently with Minuteman on the camera project. They're getting close to completion. They've been putting in some long days up there for the last couple of weeks, but it's really looking good. Very happy with the progress that's been made, and hopefully they'll have that done, I'm being told, by the end of next week, if all goes well. That's all I have on the jail side.
Thank you. And I don't believe I've missed anybody. No one else is here, so we can go on to unfinished business. There's none. New business, Resolution 23-240, to approve the hiring of the following individuals for the Somerset County Jail: Charles Poisoner, Travis Oakes, Bryce Lombard, Scotty Post, Abigail Laughlin, and Shauna Brown.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 23-241, to accept the following resignations from the Somerset County Jail: Sam Baker and Joseph Boggs.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, Resolution 23-242, to authorize an upgrade to internet speeds at the courthouse to accommodate Central Square requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Yes, good. Resolution 23-243A, to approve a liquor licenses for Maine Huts and Trails and Rockwood Bar and Grill.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, it's in there anyway, there's that, okay. Discussion? We're all good, thank you. And we had added Rockwood Bar and Grill earlier, and it got stuck in there, so we're good to go on that vote. Resolution 23-244, to approve the hire of Holly Mullen as judicial attendant for the Somerset County Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 23-245, to approve the promotion of Peter Moulton to corporal for the Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Capital reserve expenditures, non-organized territory, Resolution 23-246, to authorize the winter maintenance agreement with the Kingsbury Pond Camp Owners Association.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want that out of TIF now?
I
versus
think
Community benefit?
we should probably be able to choose which one as we go forward, so either have it either or. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you want to do, I thought possibly you wanted it moved over to TIF.
We probably should have TIF, but
Is this something that's approved every year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we discussed this in May, I went back and read the minutes.
Yeah.
And next May, after we pay for this year, we're gonna have another discussion about possibly either splitting the cost or doing something a little bit different than what we're doing this year and have for the last,
You know, ongoing, I think we should have a clear delineation between the two
yeah.
and really be careful how what we use the community benefits for related to UT and
So
what it should be.
within this motion, TIF,
Yeah.
money is to come from TIF.
Yeah.
that's how I'll reflect it in the
Right,
minutes.
so within the motions, authorize the winter maintenance agreement with Kingsbury Pond Camp Owners Association, funding to come through TIF.
Yep.
So we'll
Any further discussion? All in favor? Warrants, resolution 23-247 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territory, and the TIF tax revenue for a total sum of $557,399.09.
So
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only.
gonna point out one thing on the money, most of that money that's going out was for paying back Blue Sky West their share of their tax payment. That's why about
Oh,
481,000, I think it was, went back to them for property tax.
oh, okay.
Because that was a very large amount.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
thanks.
And I take it there's no miscellaneous discussions.
Good.
And our next is an executive session, Title I, Section 4056A, Personnel Jail.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're in executive session.
Just wanted to take a minute and introduce myself, Bob Haynes, Old Canada Road, and thank you for your consideration of our application. We'll be in touch.
Great, thanks. We're in executive. We can kill the light.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.